Hey there, you looking kinda cute. Please consider subscribing and check out our Patreon for more. Enjoy the video. The silence that followed was deafening. Damia was pretty sure no one in the room was even breathing. She stayed as she was, shoulders back and chin lifted, refusing to be the one to break eye contact first. Bob looked away with a muttered curse. Damia felt a surge of vicious satisfaction as his splotchy complexion darkened further. When he finally spoke again, his voice was tight with barely leashed irritation.
Fine. Have it your way.
He shoved back from the table and stalked out without another word. The rest of the team exchanged wide-eyed glances as the door slammed shut behind him. Damia slowly sank back into her chair, knees suddenly watery as the adrenaline rush subsided. She'd really just done that. Put Bob in his place, in a room full of people, defended her identity and her place on this team. A slow grin spread across her face. She felt 10 feet tall, invincible, untouchable. For the first time since she'd started her transition, Damia truly believed that she could do this, that she could carve out a place for herself in this field, in this world, without compromising or apologizing for who she was. The project kickoff resumed with a new sense of energy and purpose. Damia led the rest of the discussion, fielding questions and assigning tasks with calm authority. Her teammates actually met her eyes now, nodding along to her points and jotting dutiful notes. When the meeting wrapped up, a few of them even made a point to pull Damia aside and express their admiration for how she'd handled Bob.
I'm sorry we didn't intervene sooner,
Amir said quietly, face lined with regret.
I think we were all hoping he'd get bored and move on if we ignored him. But that's no excuse for making you fight that battle alone.
Damia shrugged, but she couldn't help the rush of warmth that suffused her at the validation.
I appreciate that.
But I know I needed to stand up for myself. Show Bob and everyone else that I'm not going to be pushed around or belittled. Not anymore. Amir smiled, reaching out to clap Damia's shoulder.
Well, you definitely proved that today. Mad respect.
He hesitated, then added more softly.
And just so you know, I've got your back from here forward, okay? We all do. You're one of us now.
Damia blinked against the sudden sting of tears. The casual camaraderie in Amir's voice, the genuine warmth in his eyes as he looked at her, at Damia, it felt like an unexpected gift, like a tiny sprout of acceptance taking tentative root. Thanks, she managed around the lump in her throat. That means a lot. Amir squeezed her shoulder once more before moving off. Damia took a moment to just breathe, marveling at the lightness in her chest. Was this what it felt like to truly inhabit a space? To know that she didn't have to keep looking over her shoulder, bracing for the next blow? It wasn't a magic bullet, she knew. There would be other Bobs, other battles to fight, and prejudices to overcome. Her identity would never be a non-issue in this world that was so eager to ostracize anyone who disrupted the status quo. But for the first time, Damia felt a flicker of genuine hope for the future. With allies like Julia and Amir at her back, with the flame of her own hard-won confidence kindling in her chest, maybe carving out a place for herself wouldn't be an impossible dream after all. Maybe she really could rewrite her story, become the heroine of her own unfolding saga, obstacles and all. With a secret smile, Damia gathered up her things and headed back to her desk, more than ready to face whatever plot twists lay ahead. Over the next few weeks, Damia threw herself into her work with renewed vigor. With Bob's snide remarks no longer a constant thorn in her side, she found herself actually enjoying the complex technical challenges of the project. Her teammates seemed to pick up on her enthusiasm, and their brainstorming sessions crackled with collaborative energy. Even Bob had settled into a grudging détente, limiting his interactions with Damia to curt nods and monosyllabic grunts. It wasn't exactly a warm working relationship, but Damia would take professional indifference over outright hostility any day. The real bright spot, though, was her growing friendship with Julia. The senior dev lead had taken Damia under her wing, offering both technical mentorship and personal support. They often grabbed coffee together between meetings, swapping war stories and venting about the daily frustrations of being a woman in tech. So when Julia invited Damia to join her for a dinner meetup with some other transgender professionals in the area, Damia jumped at the chance. The prospect of connecting with more people who understood her unique challenges was too good to pass up. The restaurant Julia had chosen was a cozy Italian place, all exposed brick and twinkle lights. Damia's nerves jangled as they approached the table where a small group was already gathered, but Julia's hand at the small of her back was a steadying anchor. "Everyone, this is Damia, the brilliant young engineer I was telling you about," Julia said by way of introduction. "Damia, meet the crew. That's Sasha. She's a UX designer at a startup downtown. Next to her is Liam. He works in data science. And the tall drink of water at the end is Remy, my better half." A chorus of warm greetings went up as Damia slid into her seat, cheeks heating at Julia's effusive praise. She hadn't realized Julia had been talking her up to her friends. Remy, a statuesque black woman with a halo of natural curls, leaned across the table with a conspiratorial grin. "Don't let Jules's nonchalance fool you, Damia. She's been singing your praises for weeks now. Says you're the most promising new hire she's seen in years." Damia ducked her head, embarrassed and pleased in equal measure. "I'm just trying to keep my head above water, honestly. But I'm learning a lot, thanks to Julia." "Imposter syndrome is real, believe me," Sasha chimed in, tucking a strand of bubblegum pink hair behind one ear. "I've been at my job for almost 2 years, and I still have days where I feel like a complete fraud. But you know what? We belong in these spaces no matter what anyone else tries to tell us." Liam, a wiry Chinese man with angular features, nodded emphatically. "Damn straight. Or, well, not straight at all, in my case." His brown eyes sparkled with mischief, startling a laugh out of Damia. As the conversation flowed, lubricated by a bottle or two of Chianti, Damia found herself relaxing by degrees. It was a revelation being surrounded by people who just got it, got her. There was no need to explain or justify her identity, no bracing for probing questions or ignorant comments. For the first time in longer than Damia could remember, she felt completely at ease in her own skin. The hours passed in a blur of laughter, delicious food, and easy camaraderie. By the time the tiramisu had been reduced to crumbs and the last of the wine drained, Damia's cheeks ached from smiling. She lingered outside the restaurant with Julia as the others peeled off with promises to connect again soon. "Thank you for inviting me tonight," Damia said, impulsively pulling the older woman into a hug. "I didn't realize how much I needed this." Julia's arms tightened around her. "Everyone needs their people, Damia. I'm just glad I could help you find yours." On Monday morning, Damia practically bounded into the office, buoyed by the glow of newfound connection and acceptance. She even managed a cordial greeting for Bob as she passed his desk, determined not to let anything puncture her good mood. To her amazement, Bob responded with a gruff, "Morning," rather than his usual surly silence. Damia blinked, wondering if she'd misheard. But no, there it was. The barest flicker of something that might have been respect in Bob's watery blue eyes. Maybe you could teach an old dog new tricks after all. Damia was still puzzling over this unprecedented development when she reached her desk and found Julia perched on the edge of it, practically vibrating with excitement. "There you are! I've been waiting forever to give you the good news." Damia raised an eyebrow, dropping her bag and shrugging out of her coat. "Good news? Did we land that big client or something?" "Better." Julia's grin was megawatt bright. "You, my dear, are being promoted to team lead on the upcoming AI project." Damia's mouth fell open. What? Are you serious?" "As a heart attack. Your technical skills are top-notch, Damia. You've consistently delivered high-quality work, ahead of schedule and under budget. Quite frankly, we'd be fools not to tap you for a leadership role." Damia sank into her chair, head spinning. A leadership role. Her. The new girl. The odd one out. The diversity hire. It seemed too good to be true. She shook her head slowly. Julia, I don't know what to say. This is incredible, but are you sure? I mean, I've only been here a few months, and I know there are people on the team with way more experience. Julia held up a hand, cutting off Damia's rambling protest. I'm sure, Damia. You've more than proven yourself. And honestly, this team could use some fresh blood in leadership. Someone with new ideas and perspectives who isn't afraid to shake things up. Damia bit her lip, hardly daring to let herself believe it. But there was no artifice in Julia's earnest expression, no hidden catch that Damia could discern. Okay, she said finally, a slow smile spreading across her face. Okay, I'll do it. I accept. And thank you, Julia, for believing in me. Julia reached out to squeeze Damia's hand. You're going to be amazing. Now let's go share the good news with the rest of the team, I can't wait to see the look on Bob's face. Over the next few months, Damia threw herself into her new role with gusto. Leading a team came with its own unique challenges, but she found that she relished the opportunity to problem solve and inspire others. With Julia's continued mentorship and the support of her tight-knit group of trans friends, Damia started to feel like she was really hitting her stride, both professionally and personally. So when HR approached her about taking on a new hire as a mentee, Damia didn't hesitate. The chance to pay forward some of the guidance and encouragement she'd received was too meaningful to pass up. The day of the new hire's orientation, Damia waited anxiously by the elevators, smoothing down her blazer and resisting the urge to check her reflection in the mirrored walls. She wanted to make a good first impression on Alex, she recalled from the email intro, a recent comp sci grad from Damia's alma mater. The elevator dinged, and a gangly, bespectacled person in an ill-fitting button-down stumbled out, juggling a messenger bag and a paper coffee cup. They looked up, met Damia's gaze, and promptly fumbled the coffee, splashing milky liquid all down their front. Shit, sorry, they yelped, frantically dabbing at the spreading stain with their sleeve. I'm so clumsy, God. You must be Damia. I'm Alex. Probably should have led with that, huh? Damia couldn't help but laugh. This kid was like a baby version of herself, all awkward limbs and nervous energy. She could relate. No worries, Alex. It's great to meet you. Damia held out a hand, giving Alex's a firm shake. Welcome to the team. We're going to get you settled at your desk, and then how about we grab a fresh coffee and chat? Alex's shoulders sagged in visible relief. That would be awesome. I mean, as long as you're okay being seen in public with a human coffee stain. Damia grinned, steering Alex down the hall. Please, you should have seen what I looked like my first day. At least you didn't tuck your skirt into your underwear before a client meeting. Alex's eyes went wide behind their chunky glasses. Oh, man. I thought I was the only one who did stuff like that. Maybe this whole adulting thing won't be so bad if even really put-together people like you have those moments. Put together, huh? Damia made a mental note to share that little gem with Julia later. Her friend would get a kick out of it. But for now, she simply bumped her shoulder against Alex's companionably as they walked. Trust me, we all have to fake it till we make it. But hey, that's what mentors are for, right? To reassure you you're doing fine, even when you feel like a hot mess. Alex ducked their head, but not before Damia caught a glimpse of a pleased flush rising on their cheeks. Yeah, I think I'm really glad to have you as mine. As Damia helped Alex get oriented over the course of the morning, showing them where the good snacks were hidden, pointing out which meeting rooms had the comfiest chairs, she felt a warm sense of rightness settle in her chest. It wasn't so long ago that she'd been in Alex's shoes, feeling adrift and out of place in a world that didn't always seem to have room for people like them. But now, through a combination of hard work, the fierce support of her chosen family, and her own defiant refusal to make herself smaller, Damia had carved out a space for herself. More than that, She'd earned a position where she could help smooth the path for the next generation, be the mentor and role model she'd so desperately needed. Of course, it wasn't all smooth sailing. There were still microaggressions to weather, still moments of dysphoria and doubt. Damia didn't think those would ever go away entirely. They were part and parcel of moving through the world as a trans person. But they were offset by so many moments of joy, of belonging, of hard-won self-love. Laughing with Julia and the rest of her trans family over drinks, marveling at how far they'd all come. Watching Alex blossom under her mentorship, their confidence growing week by week, leading her team to one success after another, secure in the knowledge that she'd earned her place at the table. And the milestones, God, the milestones, the sheer unmitigated euphoria of seeing the F on her driver's license for the first time, celebrating her 1-year anniversary at the company with a glittery cupcake and thigh-high boots, her grin so wide her face ached with it. Standing in front of the bathroom mirror and taking in the woman gazing back, hip-locked, chin high, unapologetic in her vibrant, hard-won womanhood. No longer the scared, unsure person she'd once been, but someone she was truly, deeply proud to be. Damia. In all her unabashed, triumphant trans glory. She wasn't naive enough to think that the road ahead would be easy. But for the first time in her life, Damia felt ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Not in spite of who she was, but because of it. She'd fought tooth and nail to become the person she was always meant to be, and she wouldn't trade that hard-won sense of self for anything. Smiling at her reflection, Damia straightened her collar, touched up her lipstick, and headed out the door. She had a mentee to meet, a team to lead, and a future to embrace, and she couldn't wait to see what other beautiful, messy, gloriously queer adventures lay ahead. Thanks for watching. Be sure to check out Patreon for a lot more content and early access to YouTube videos.